American rock didn't just shape a sound, it shaped entire generations. From garage-born riffs to stadium anthems, these bands didn't stay local for long. They broke borders, rewrote the rules, and turned rebellion into a global language. Each guitar solo, every lyric, carried the pulse of a country hungry for change. This is more than music history, it's a story of domination, risk, and reinvention. From the 60s revolution to the 90s alternative storm, these American bands didn't just play, they conquered the world. Let's dive into the 15 names that took rock from American streets to every corner of the planet. Aerosmith emerged from Boston in the early 70s, armed with a swagger that blended blues roots with hard rock grit. Steven Tyler's feral vocals and Joe Perry's razor-sharp riffs turned raw energy into art, giving birth to classics like Dream On and Sweet Emotion. They weren't just playing songs, they were creating the soundtrack for rebellion. The 80s could have destroyed them, but instead, Aerosmith roared back stronger. Albums like Permanent Vacation and Pump revived their sound, while hits like Dude Looks Like a Lady and Love in an Elevator stormed the charts. Their collaboration with Run DMC on Walk This Way didn't just save their career, it bridged rock and hip-hop forever. By the 90s, Aerosmith had become legends, conquering both MTV and stadium tours with anthems like Cryin' and Crazy. Decades later, their music still dominates airwaves, proof that resilience and reinvention made them one of America's ultimate rock exports. From gritty clubs to global stages, Aerosmith turned survival into supremacy.
Before you slept.
The Doors weren't a band, they were a cultural phenomenon. Emerging from Los Angeles in the late 60s, they fused poetry with psychedelia, darkness with desire. Jim Morrison's haunting lyrics, paired with Ray Manzarek's hypnotic keyboards, created an intoxicating sound that defied convention. Songs like Light My Fire and Riders on the Storm didn't just top charts, they defined an era. Their music wasn't safe, it was dangerous, electric, unpredictable. While other bands offered escapism, the Doors confronted reality's shadows, turning live shows into theatrical rituals. Morrison's magnetic presence, fueled by chaos and genius, cemented their legend, but it also hastened their demise. Even after Morrison's death in 1971, the Doors' influence endured. Their songs became timeless hymns of counterculture, inspiring generations of musicians and filmmakers worldwide. Few bands dared to walk as close to the edge, and none did it with such hypnotic brilliance. Before distortion and leather dominated, there was harmony, sunshine, and surfboards. The Beach Boys captured the soul of 60s America with their lush harmonies and idyllic visions of California living. Songs like Good Vibrations and California Girls became global symbols of freedom, fun, and youth. But their story wasn't just about simple surf anthems. Under Brian Wilson's genius, the Beach Boys revolutionized music production with Pet Sounds, an album that influenced everyone from the Beatles to modern pop icons. Their layered arrangements and emotional depth proved that rock could be sophisticated without losing its soul. Though internal conflicts and personal struggles nearly tore them apart, their legacy remains untouchable. From sunny beaches to the darkest studio battles, the Beach Boys left the world melodies that still feel like summer, even decades later. They didn't just sing about California, they exported its dream worldwide. The Eagles built their empire on harmonies as golden as the deserts they sang about. Rising in the early 70s, they fused rock with country, crafting songs that resonated far beyond the United States. Tracks like Hotel California and Take It Easy became global anthems of escape and longing. Their music captured the restless spirit of America, balancing laid-back vibes with haunting themes of disillusionment. Behind the polished sound, tensions brewed among members. But those battles only fueled their drive to perfection. Albums like One of These Nights and The Long Run cemented their dominance. Even after breaking up in 1980, the Eagles' music never left the airwaves. When they reunited in the 90s, their tours shattered records, proving their timeless pull. Few bands defined American rock with such elegance, and none sold more records doing it. Kiss didn't just play music, they created an empire. Emerging in the mid-70s, their makeup, costumes, and pyrotechnic shows turned concerts into larger-than-life events. Behind the theatrical masks, songs like Rock and Roll All Night gave them a global fan base. Critics dismissed them as a gimmick, but fans turned them into legends. Kiss mastered branding before anyone else, putting their logo on everything from lunchboxes to comic books. They understood that rock was more than sound, it was an experience. Decades later, Kiss remains a cultural phenomenon. Their farewell tours still pack stadiums, and their influence on stagecraft is undeniable. They didn't just change rock, they changed entertainment forever. When Van Halen erupted in 1978, the game changed. Eddie Van Halen's revolutionary guitar techniques and David Lee Roth's flamboyant charisma created a blueprint for modern hard rock. Songs like Jump and Panama turned arenas into temples of energy. They weren't just about riffs, they were about spectacle. Roth's acrobatics, Eddie's solos, and the pounding rhythm section made every concert an unforgettable experience. Their albums dominated the charts, and their sound dominated the 80s. Even lineup changes couldn't stop their momentum. With Sammy Hagar at the helm, Van Halen scored even bigger hits, proving their adaptability. From garages to global glory, Van Halen didn't just play rock, they electrified it. By the mid-80s, Bon Jovi had perfected the formula for stadium domination. Their blend of hard rock and pop hooks produced anthems like Livin' on a Prayer and You Give Love a Bad Name. They weren't just a band, they were a global phenomenon. Their rise coincided with the MTV era, and they embraced it fully. With big hair, bigger choruses, and videos that felt like mini-movies, Bon Jovi conquered screens as well as stages. Their tours sold out across continents, proving that their appeal went far beyond America. Even as trends shifted in the 90s, Bon Jovi evolved, delivering hits like Always that cemented their longevity. Few bands blended accessibility and authenticity as masterfully as they did. When Appetite for Destruction dropped in 1987, it didn't just climb charts, it detonated them. Guns N' Roses brought danger back to rock with feral energy and unapologetic attitude. Songs like Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child O' Mine became anthems of chaos. Their live shows were unpredictable, their image rebellious, and their music pure adrenaline. Axl Rose's piercing vocals and Slash's iconic riffs created a sound that conquered arenas worldwide. They weren't polished, they were primal, and that's what made them irresistible. Even with internal turmoil and delays, albums like Use Your Illusion kept them at the top. Guns N' Roses didn't just dominate rock, they became the last true band of danger.
I can remember anything.
Metallica took heavy metal from underground clubs to global stadiums. Formed in 1981, they pushed boundaries with ferocious riffs and relentless energy. Albums like Master of Puppets and Injustice for All redefined what metal could achieve commercially. Their breakthrough came with the self-titled Black Album, featuring hits like Enter Sandman. It sold millions, turning Metallica into household names without sacrificing their raw intensity. Their global tours were monumental, proving metal wasn't niche, it was universal. Decades later, Metallica remains unstoppable, headlining festivals and inspiring new generations. They didn't just make metal mainstream, they made it immortal. In the early 90s, Nirvana shattered the glam metal era with a single riff. Smells Like Teen Spirit didn't just become a hit, it became an anthem for a generation lost between apathy and anger. Grunge wasn't just music, it was a movement, and Nirvana was its heart. Their breakthrough album Nevermind transformed alternative rock into a global force, replacing excess with raw honesty. Kurt Cobain's voice carried pain and poetry, resonating with millions who saw themselves in his lyrics. Their sound was stripped down yet explosive, a rebellion against everything plastic. Though their time was tragically short, their impact was eternal. Nirvana didn't just dominate charts, they altered the DNA of rock forever. Every distortion-fueled chord they played still echoes in modern music. Pearl Jam emerged from Seattle's rainy streets during the early 90s grunge explosion, but they weren't just another band riding a trend. Their debut album, 10, delivered emotional intensity with tracks like Alive and Jeremy, blending raw guitar-driven power with deep, socially conscious lyrics. They gave voice to a generation wrestling with alienation and uncertainty. What set Pearl Jam apart was their refusal to play by industry rules. They fought against the corporate grip of ticketing giants, prioritizing fans over profits, a stance that made headlines and cemented their integrity. While fame consumed others, Pearl Jam stayed grounded, evolving without losing their soul. Decades later, their concerts still sell out worldwide, and their sound continues to evolve. Pearl Jam didn't just shape grunge, they transcended it, proving that authenticity outlasts hype. Their legacy isn't just music, it's a movement built on principles and passion. Before stadium anthems and glossy music videos, punk exploded in a dingy New York club, and at its core stood the Ramones. They stripped rock to its raw essence, short songs, furious riffs, and lyrics that were both rebellious and strangely innocent. Tracks like Blitzkrieg Bop and Sheena is a Punk Rocker ignited a cultural wildfire. They didn't dominate charts, but they dominated influence. While the mainstream scoffed, Europe embraced them, and their cult following spread like lightning. Their look, leather jackets, torn jeans, became a punk uniform copied worldwide. The Ramones proved that attitude mattered as much as ability.
Oh, let's go!
Today, their songs remain punk's holy scripture, covered by countless bands and etched into music history. The Ramones didn't just open the door for punk, they kicked it off its hinges. Before punk had a name, the Stooges were living it. Led by the untamed Iggy Pop, they unleashed chaos in the late 60s and early 70s with music that sounded like the apocalypse on vinyl. Songs like I Wanna Be Your Dog weren't hits, they were detonations. Critics didn't understand them, and audiences were terrified, but their fearless sound became the blueprint for punk and alternative rock. Their live shows blurred the line between art and anarchy, with Iggy diving into crowds and pushing performance to its breaking point. They didn't care about fame, they cared about impact.
I wanna be your dog.
Decades later, the Stooges are hailed as pioneers, their influence echoing through every raw, distorted riff that followed. They didn't dominate charts, they dominated the future. While hair metal ruled the 80s, REM quietly rewrote the playbook. With jangly guitars and introspective lyrics, they led the college rock scene into the mainstream, paving the way for alternative music's global takeover. Albums like Murmur and Automatic for the People offered depth in an era of excess. They didn't need pyrotechnics or controversy, their power was in subtlety. Songs like Losing My Religion and Everybody Hurts spoke to the human condition, resonating far beyond American borders. REM proved that vulnerability could sell stadiums. By the time they retired, they had sold millions and inspired countless bands, leaving behind a legacy of authenticity and artistry. REM didn't scream to be heard. They whispered and changed everything. Red Hot Chili Peppers didn't fit any box, they burned it. Mixing funk grooves with punk aggression, they crafted a sound that was as unpredictable as their wild performances. Songs like Give It Away and Under the Bridge turned them into global icons. Their journey wasn't easy. Addiction, lineup changes, and personal turmoil could have destroyed them, but the band reinvented itself through resilience. Albums like Californication and By the Way proved they could evolve without losing their edge. They thrived by turning chaos into creativity. Today, their music remains a force on every continent. From sweaty clubs to massive festivals, Red Hot Chili Peppers transformed funk-infused rock into a worldwide phenomenon. They didn't just dominate, they redefined what a rock band could be. From sunlit harmonies to gritty grunge, these 15 American bands didn't just top charts, they conquered borders, rewrote genres, and shaped entire generations. They proved that rock isn't just music, it's identity, rebellion, and art fused into sound. If these stories made you feel the power of those unforgettable riffs, subscribe now and join us for more deep dives into the music that changed the world. Because the legends of rock never fade, they just keep echoing louder.